this is a session of Space Renaissance conversation on the theme of a future of our civilization in 200 years.
Okay.
So I am Adriano Autino, the president of Space Renaissance International, and you are?
Tsvi Bisk, I guess head of Strategic Futurist Thinking Research Center in Israel, which is basically me.
Excellent, excellent. I think it's enough. However, yeah,
everybody's a center today, so that's okay.
Yeah, I had this idea to undertake conversations around the world with, let me say, futurist philosophers that are thinking about expansion of civilization into space, what it will be, the benefits of this social process, what are the risks that we are running, what is at stake for humanity in this very critical age of our history. And I happened to read these books of this guy, James Corey. So this is one. Currently, I read 3 books of him that are belong to the same series, that it was called The Expanse, and gave birth to a TV series called The Expanse. It is a long history. It is environmented in 200 years from now, a future in 2 centuries from now.
So it's something like Asimov's Foundation series, something like that?
Yes, yes. Let me say that, okay, it only concerns the solar system so far, because
that's okay.
The authors think that in 200 centuries humanity has colonized Mars, and on Mars there is a developing society, there is a government, and Mars is a superpower. In fact, there are 2 superpowers, Earth and Mars. The Earth is governed by United Nations, and then there is let me say, a third entity that is less defined, because it's a kind of anarchist frontier social context that is developing on the asteroid belt. They are called the Belters, and they live on Ganymede, on Ceres, they have stations on many, even small asteroids.
Sounds like he took the 60s, and instead of hippies going into the woods, they're going to these asteroids now.
Yeah, they arrived up to Neptune, to the orbit of Neptune. They capture comets. They capture iceberg.
Okay, that's possible.
In the rings of Saturn.
Okay.
And pull them to supply water and oxygen.
And where do they get the resources to do this? It's just curious to me. They just he starts in the middle.
Yes, it starts in the middle. It's not. They are not writing the whole story from the beginning.
Okay.
So there are many questions that, of course, are related to the sociologic analysis of this situation, and in industrial situation and economic situation.
Yeah.
There are many contradictions, and this is what let me say, ignited my reflection on that, because I thought, if we are 200 years ahead in the future, and humanity expanded into the solar system.
Yeah.
This is what we at Space Renaissance, we call it the evolutionary step that we are faced to in this age. And
right.
If it will happen, it will give rise to an evolution.
Oh, no question about it.
Yeah. But I was trying to understand if in this story there are signs of this evolution, or the author just think that the same problems we have on Earth now are expanded into the solar system without any improvement. So this is my first question.
Okay. You want me to respond to that, or you just...
If you like, yes.
One must always be careful about this, but I really believe that we will not significantly expand into the solar system unless we solve our problems. So, no, I don't think the problems will expand into the solar system. I think our expansion into the solar system will be one of the consequences of solving our problems, and the search for meaning in an infinite universe. Unless we solve our material problems on this, and here I think we will use the solar system to solve our material problems.
Yes.
So you talked about the asteroid belt. I believe that in another, by the end of this century, there won't be any mining on the planet Earth. All our mining will be from the asteroid belt or from Mars or from the moon. I believe we will have small colonies, but they will not be independent of the Earth. They will be both dependent on the Earth and will be serving the Earth. It'd be somewhat like scientific groups in the Antarctica. You're not going to see a civilization in the Antarctica, but you will have people living there. You already have small, dozens of people living there. So no, I don't think. I think unless we solve our problems, we're not going to have anything significant to do in the solar system. That's my. I may be wrong. I mean, but
no. It's a vision. However, so you think that
we can use the solar system to solve our problems. Let me put it that way.
Yes. This is my.
I think that would be a more accurate way to put it.
Well, my idea is this one, that we cannot solve our problems on Earth if we don't expand into space.
I agree.
Because we are now almost 8 billion humans on Earth, and we have a lot of problems due to scarcity of resources and environmental problems due to the fact that we are grown.
Yes, I agree.
And if the family grows up, the house becomes small. So the obvious solution is that we have to expand into a greater ecological niche.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, we will go towards an implosion of a civilization.
My vision is essentially that by the end of this century, it should be our aim. Nothing's going to happen automatically. It has to be a civilizational policy, or at least a general vision to guide policy. That the planet Earth will essentially become a bedroom community. And that the physical work, the material work will happen on the moon, in the asteroid belt, on the various other moons of the various planets. Our food will be grown in our cities with vertical urban agricultural establishments. And what is now farmland will be rewild. It'll just go back to wilderness so that the environment will be enriched. But there will be no mining on this planet, and certainly no industrial pollution. I think we'll have Arthur Clarke's space elevator to bring things up and down from the asteroid belt or from the moon or whatever. Various other means we can't even envision today. I mean, but that would be my vision. And then the question becomes, what do people do? We might have a civilization where almost everybody is involved in relatively intellectual work, I believe we'll have a negative income tax in the sense that everybody will be guaranteed a life of comfortable poverty, I would call it. And if they want to move up more than comfortable poverty, then they'll have to work and do something useful that other people are willing to pay for. But this kind of attitude will make the welfare society much more efficient, get rid of a lot of bureaucracy. That's my basic vision by the end of this century. Other than that,
in the history of the expanse, Earth has 30 billion inhabitants. Planet Earth, 30 billions.
Yeah.
It is not written what is the total population in the solar system. However, Mars is developed, and the belters are many. So we can think that maybe
you're talking about Corey's books.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to stay on that track because this
okay.
That's
okay.
It's just a spur. It's just a way to ignite reasoning. So I think that in the whole solar system, maybe there are 50 billions or something like that. That's not too many. In 200, but in 200 centuries, I think it could be realistic if the process.
You're saying 200 centuries or 200 years?
No, sorry, my fault. 200 years.
Because 200 centuries, I might agree with
200 centuries, we cannot know, of course. It would be only an exercise of speculation. Yeah. But 200 years is worth to think about. But however, the first thing that gave me a bit surprise is why Earth has 30 billion people. And the social conditions on Earth are not easy because the majority of these people is unemployed. And they live with a subsistence salary.
Okay.
Only the people who have a job, they have a salary to buy the plus, let me say. Or the unemployed have only a survival. So my first question is, if civilization expanded into the solar system, it means that this is what we at Space Renaissance believe to understand, that it will be a big industrial revolution, because to support the diaspora, big technological means will be developed. So we need industries to make spacecrafts, to make infrastructures, to make a lot of things. And this will be an economical global, enormous, huge economical growth. So why Earth has 30 billion people and most of them are unemployed? I think this is let me say.
Can I comment?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. With all due respect to Mr. Corey, I think he should study some history of the economy and of technology. And also, your question, why do you think industry needs workers at all? I mean, you look at the pyramid of work from the 19th century till today. In the United States, the world's industrial power, et cetera, et cetera. At the beginning of the 19th century, 85% of the people worked in agriculture. In 1930s and before in the 1920s, 40% worked in industry. And today you have less than 2% working in agriculture and less than 9% working in industry. And despite what Mr. Sanders and Mr. Trump both said about American industry, 2016 had the biggest industrial production in America's history. They just don't need a lot of workers. Most of the workers are services. And services are infinite. the human being can never be satiated with enough services.
Yeah.
Education. I don't know. I went for a massage the other day. We go dancing. There's this explosion of liberating people from drudge work. So I don't think. Yes, you'll need a lot of stuff, but it'll be made by robots and by very smart scientists operating the robots.
Look,
but it's not going to solve employment.
I expected this. This comment about robotics, and it is true. However, we can make by robots on Earth what we know. That are cars, cell phones.
Oh no, I agree. You're not going to get rid of human beings.
If we are going outside, there will be a lot of experimentation.
Yes, but you're not going to need a lot of
people. Let me say, a new artisan
class
process. That we will use robots, of course. We cannot do.
I agree.
But humans will be very much needed in space, very much more than on Earth.
Absolutely, yes.
So, okay.
The flexibility of the human being, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. My daughter, about 15 years ago, was working for a high-tech company in a small town in Israel. And it employed 25 people. So I said, oh, there's 25 people working in high-tech. She says, no. The whole high-tech was 2 or 3 engineers. The rest of us were sales and management and shipping and this, that, the other. My point being is that even in outer space, you're going to have these experts, but they're going to need a lot of support. And you're going to have services that we can't even imagine. I mean, what will be the services in space? I mean, you're going to have special exercises to fight the degeneration of the body and when there's no gravity or very small gravity, psychological problems, I don't know, sexual problems, social problems, entertainment, 1,001 different things. Just maintaining the communications between these various little colonies of industrial colonies with one another and with the mother planet. You're going to have, I mean, even in classical, like in America, we say the Americans say that we only have 2% working in farming. That's true, but you got maybe 50, 60 million people dependent on the agricultural sector. You know what I mean? It's like, it's an inverted pyramid. The people who are actually on the tractor are the minority. The people who make the tractor are another minority. But you have an entire system that is so complex and interwoven and global that and maybe being employed will not be an issue in 200 years. Maybe it will not be a social virtue. Maybe we will have graduated to a higher level of consciousness.
Well, of course, employment maybe will not be the method of production.
Yeah.
Maybe there will be something else. However, there will be. It's quite how can I say short-sighted to imagine that we will have 30 billion people and 25 billion unemployed.
I agree.
Yeah, so it should be something else. Otherwise, we will not understand what was the positive effects of the expansion.
But we can't even imagine what will be. I'll give you an example from the internet revolution, from the computer revolution. How many thousands of different kinds of jobs and professions, including the method that the internet has created, including what we're doing now on this interview. If 30 years ago you asked somebody what they did and they said, I'm a webmaster, they'd think that the guy thought he was Spider-Man or something. I mean, You know what I mean? In other words, these new technologies will create unimaginable
Of course.
needs. And then people will then get on this stuff and say, and they will create what we call artificial means, or what Steve Jobs used to say, well, how do people know what they want if they've never seen it before? You know what I mean? You know.
Yeah. And just think about what it will be to work on the asteroids. Asteroids are all different to each other.
Yes.
You cannot think about an automated process that go and make mining on the asteroid, because it will be
impossible.
A definitely new problem each time.
Right.
And which problems will rise trying to make industrial zero gravity or low gravity industrial processes in order to get powders for 3D printing, for instance, by minerals or by recycling debris. This is another argument, because there would be many things to say about what we should make now, what it will be convenient now to do in orbit by human technicians instead of robotics. That will be another discussion that's far away from our discussion of today. But however, the number of jobs, as you said, with the civilian expansion in the outer space, the number of jobs will multiply over one or more order of magnitude, for sure.
I would say for every one industrial, in inverted commas, because the guy is going to be totally enveloped in an artificial suit and have a super robot mechanics to do the things, he might be creating another 100 jobs to support him.
Yes.
So, including personal services, you know, the guys need special exercise.
For sure.
And special diet and all sorts of things. You know?
So, coming to some other questions that we can develop from.
By the way, does he say why he's 30 billion? That sounds like an outrageous number, but maybe I'm more crazy.
No, they don't say. Look, the books are very much better than the TV series, I have to say, because in the books you find in almost each page a reflection about ethics, about morality, about
philosophical
questions, etc. What I think it is lacking, it is definitely missing, is an anthropological and sociological point of investigation.
The reason I asked that, because it's 2017, and right now we have 60 countries that don't have a replacement birth rate, including your country.
Yeah.
You know, China is about to have a demographic collapse if they keep going the way they're going in another 30 or 40 years. You're going to have negative growth in many of the major countries in the world. You have negative growth already in Russia. They're losing 500,000 people a year. They're declining population. You're going to see that in China soon.
Yes, but that I think it could be an effect, because what I say from my humanist point of view is that opening the high frontier will ignite the hope again in the people.
I see it.
Therefore, people will start again making children.
Yes, that's a good point.
And the demographic could be restart. Yes, but
that's true.
But I think that positive future will come, not only be a hope. Therefore, we should see. We could maybe agree.
Just a question.
My vision of the science fiction of these days. That is my interest in making this. One of my interests making this discussion. Maybe we have a new generation of writers that we can call post-dystopian, because for 40 years we had a very much dystopian science fiction.
Yes.
Most of all in movies.
I hate it. I hate it. I think it's very unuseful and
uneducational. Definitely uneducational. Because anti-educational. Technology and science were seen as the evil. because we destroy the planet, destroy the nature, etc., etc.
I call it the anti-enlightenment science fiction.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So now maybe we have some new writers that are trying to come out of that new obscurantist age.
Good.
But what can we say? That very few of them have an anthropological and sociological capability in their writing, and maybe a new science. I think that science fiction is very important. The culture and entertainment are very important for outreach.
I think it's the most relevant genre.
Yes. So, from one point of view, we cannot claim to go to the science fiction writers and say, now, look, now we will give you the subjects for your work, because they will not accept.
No,
that would be a kind of
Stalinist
way.
Stalinist science fiction.
Yes, that we don't like, of course. In the same time, we should try to I don't know, to make some cross fertilization in their mind, and to tell, hey, maybe you could, didn't you think about this and this and this, without saying more than that, without saying you should bring this concept and this concept. But for instance, we could ask to Mr. Corey if I also learned that he is not a Mr. Corey. They are two writing with this pseudonym.
One name, okay.
Yeah. However, didn't you think to the sociological aspects of 200 years in the future, when the solar system is colonized? What happened? Only unemployment? Maybe not. So make some provocatory questions could be maybe a good initiative. And I also would like to understand what you think about some question from the evolutionary point of view. Do you think 200 years are enough to appreciate some evolutionary sign? I mean,
you mean physically?
Well, there will be, of course, physiological differences, because when you live in a low gravity environment, you will change. This is, and the books mention this, that people are tall, but there's not the physiological.
Yeah, but the question is if that's a real evolutionary change.
Evolutionary, I mean, in a cultural and ethical.
Yes, absolutely.
Level.
That, yes. Because let's say people who, let's say you have 2 or 3 generations that are raised on the moon. But are they really a new species? I mean, if you brought the sperm and the egg back to Earth and you produced the baby, would it look like them? Or would it look like an Earthling because it grew up in Earth? I think pretty much the second. But I really think that the cultural and psychological evolution is the important issue.
Yeah.
Look, you talk about the dystopian and the pessimism. That has to do with the greater question of alienation. You know, the God is dead, and it's post-religion, and it's post-enlightenment, and everything is post, and it's post-modern, which means it's post-progress. The idea of progress is no longer admired. Let's look at our situation as conscious beings on this planet. We're a small planet around a very medium-sized star, right? Our sun is a medium-sized star. In a galaxy that they say has 300 billion approximately stars.
Yep.
Our closest neighbor, Andromeda, has 1 trillion stars. The observable universe has 2 trillion galaxies, the largest of which we know is 100 trillion stars. The observable universe is estimated to be only about 5% of the universe. And now we have mathematical speculation as well as some empirical evidence that our universe is actually not a universe, but a finite cosmos within a universe of an infinite number of other cosmoses, either similar to ours or not similar to ours. We don't have no idea. And there's some empirical evidence for this. And when you think about this, and the fact that our planet is 4.5 billion years old, and life on this planet is 3.8 billion years old, and modern humans rose 100,000 years ago and recorded history 8,000 years ago, and the Enlightenment, the scientific revolution 400 years ago, and Enlightenment 300 years ago. And in other words, does existence really care whether Trump is president or Hillary is president or Berlusconi is prime minister? When you dwell on the vastness of existence per se, by the way, I think this is one of the reasons why there's such a return to fundamentalist religion around the world, whether it's Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Hindu. People are adrift and they're looking for answers, and they look for the classical answers because there's no new answers. So the evolutionary aim, this is something I've been working on now for some years, is to find a worldview or to develop a worldview that does give meaning to our very existence. I mean, we live, 80 years, 90 years? I mean, what are we? I mean, we're nothing. That's what our culture tells us. If you get an education, it's interesting. The more educated you get, the more alienated you get from your very own existence. Does science now, and this was Einstein's ambition, can science be, what did he write? I have it down here. Science not only purifies the religious impulse of the dross of anthropomorphism, but also contributes to a religious spiritualization of our understanding of life. This is Albert Einstein. The further the spiritual evolution of mankind advances, the more certain it seems to me that the path to genuine religiosity does not lie through fear of life and the fear of death and blind faith, but through strong, often rational knowledge. If somebody asked me who's the most religious personality of the 20th century, it'd be Albert Einstein. Not the Pope and not the Dalai Lama and not anybody like that. And the question is, can there be a postmodernism? The postmodernist critique of modernism is justified. The arrogance of the rationalist view and the destruction it wrought. But you can't live with a post. You have to live with something affirmative. And this is what I think will become the collective ambition. It's funny, the word for God in Hebrew is a verb. If you actually say it, you're not allowed to say it. But if you said it, it would be a verb. The English version, they say Jehovah. It comes from Yahweh.
Yeah.
Will be constituted, will be made manifest. Yeah, I will be. When Moses addresses the burning bush, he says, "What's your name?" Now that's translated, "I am that I am," because in biblical Hebrew there's no tense. There's only perfect and imperfect. In modern Hebrew, that's future. I will be what I will be. But in biblical Hebrew, it's in the imperfect, not the perfect. In other words, the word for God is imperfect. And we're talking about a process of human beings being part of the process of making their own existence divine, of giving some kind of great ambition beyond the material. That's why I think once we solve the material question of human existence, and that means solving the environmental question and everything else.
Resources, energy.
Yes. Look, I say our aim as futurists should be to envision an Earth in 2099 in which 12 billion people are living with an American standard of living and 1/100th the negative environmental impact of today. In other words, the environment actually repairing itself, even though we've achieved that standard of living. Because if you had 12 billion people with the present paradigm, with American standard of living, there'd be no planet Earth by the year 2099. It'd be totally devastated, right? I mean, it's just impossible. And I think that's possible. I think once you make the question clear, and the question is not unscientific or irrational, you can develop the means to make the question, that question come true. Can 12 billion people live on the planet Earth with an American standard of living and 1/100th the negative environmental impact of today? Once you ask the question, you can answer it. We can resolve this. But once you achieve that, what is left for civilization? Now people that call themselves humanists, you, myself, we concern ourselves with the environment, with peace, with nuclear disarmament, with all the practical questions. But let's try to envision, I'd like to see a science fiction writer write a science fiction of what happens when we solve all our material problems. What happens to the human experience?
Yes. I think the real question is, should we try to give birth to a new utopia? But it is a feasible?
Yes.
It is a feasible utopia so far, because
yes, a practical utopia.
Yes, what I think is that the utopias of the past century were not feasible.
No, they were totalitarian.
Apart the fact that they were totalitarian because they were not feasible.
Yes, because they told people how to live.
Because when people realize that what you promise is not feasible, you have to start imposing it. Otherwise, people will stop believing. And people will stop believing, however, because if you impose, it's the best way to make people stop to believe, of course. So the problem is that any utopia is feasible in the closed world. But having access to abundant resources, abundant energy, etc., we think that a new utopia will be feasible. That is, it will not look like any of the past century ideological means. I mean, will not be socialist, it will not be liberalist, it will be maybe a lot of these things all together. Because everything, any governance model will be possible with abundant resources, provided that there is honesty and morality in the management. And how can we achieve a moral behavior if our social fear will decrease? And the social fear will decrease if we will have jobs enough, if we will have wealth enough, if we will have opportunities to live and to make a better future for our children. So my question is,
here's an educational, go ahead.
Yes, in 200 years, will it be possible to see some signs of this evolution, this social evolution?
Yes.
In the reality of a solar system civilization?
Look, there's two alternatives, Adriano.
Yeah.
One is yes, and the other is no.
Of course.
And if it's no, then we're dead.
Yes.
I mean, it's not really a choice here. Either we rise to a new level of civilization, or we destroy ourselves.
Yes, that is.
Because look at recent history. Look at Brexit, and look at Trump, and look at what's happening also in Europe with the right-wing parties. And what is the fundamental thing that's going on here? Is resentment. resentment is the most under-researched aspect of historical analysis, in my opinion. Resentment is at the basis of the Middle Eastern problem, of the Israelis and the Palestinians on both sides. Resentment from the post-industrial devastation in northern England and in Midwest America. Resentment about change that is so fast that people just can't cope with it. And this is an educational question. This is a philosophical question. This is a religious question.
Yes, too. Yes, I think that I think that I call this the syndrome of the closed world. If we keep on growing in the closed world,
that's interesting.
The civilization will go crazy.
It'll eat itself. It'll turn on itself. Yes.
Yes, because
that's interesting.
Because the social fear will keep on growing. Yeah. But if we open the system, if we get access to abundant resources, if we get access to abundant resources and energy, etc., then the pressure will decrease, and social fear will decrease, etc.
Yes.
In a system where the pressure is growing, the psychotic behaviors become ruling, because people is afraid.
Yes.
And begins to follow the most aggressive, because they think that the most aggressive will defend them by the others. So conflicts will grow up, etc., etc. But if the social fear will decrease, then I believe people is intrinsically good. They like to be in peace. They like to work. They like to have fun. They like to make love, to have children. They don't like to kill.
Yeah.
Why they are things?
I would put it a different way. I would put it a different way.
Yeah.
I don't know if people are intrinsically good or bad. I don't think Rousseau was as great as a lot of people think he was. But I know one thing: people like to have a good time. People like to enjoy their lives.
Yes.
I fought in a couple of wars, and it was very unpleasant. I did not enjoy myself. I enjoy myself having a good meal. I enjoy myself dancing. I enjoy myself making love. I enjoy myself having a conversation with my friends.
Playing music.
So I think people want to enjoy themselves. They want to enjoy their minds. And playing to people's own selfish desires, and here I don't think the word selfish is a bad word, I think is a better way to go about it than preaching to people that they have to be good.
Oh yes, yeah. No. It's not. This would be moralism.
Tell me I want to be good. I want to kick them.
Yes, any moralist strategy will fail. We already know it.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not moralism that will save
people who want to tell me to be good.
Yes, it is. But however, we can observe that if you take 10 people and you put them in a normal situation, maybe 2 of them. You see it also in a classroom when we were children, no, and we went to school. There were maybe 20 children,
right.
And only 2 of them were violent. They wanted. Then okay, reasoning about children is still different, because children have many behaviors that are not, let me say, rational. And
but it's okay for the argument.
But it's okay
for this discussion.
Only two were violent. The rest of the children were annoyed, even if
and it was probably reason they were violent.
Yeah.
Family and things like that. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm disagreeing. So I don't get Corey's having to do this, that people are already changing evolutionarily. I would like to see the same writing strategy applied to what you were talking about earlier. Although you can't preach to authors what to write.
Yeah.
Okay, and just ask the question. In the 22nd century, we're in the 21st century. If by the end of the 21st century we solve our material problems, what will civilization look like in the 22nd century? That's a question I'd like to stand before a conference of science
Yes.
fiction
Okay.
writers and ask.
Yeah.
And see if that can stimulate some kind of creativity.
Yeah. So
That would be interesting.
Maybe we can conclude this conversation with this question.
Absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead.
And fine.
Okay.
So this conversation will be published on the Special Essence Academy website, and
Very
we will have, hopefully we will have other 10 or 12 conversations like this all together on one page.
Very good.
And maybe after a first round, and after watching each other conversations, we can maybe have a second round of our permanent symposium online. Okay. So,
okay.
Tsvi,
thank you very much.
Thank you so much for participating. See you next time.
Ciao.
Ad astra.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Yes. Ciao.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.